A man who will be part of that battle is Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and with me now. And Senator, good day to you. Good morning. Thank you for your time. What do you think of?
Nice to see you.
You bet. Brett Kavanaugh. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think he's an excellent choice. I've known him for years. He's done a very good job on the second highest court in the land, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and I suspect that he'll be a great addition to the Supreme Court.
Is he confirmed then?
Yeah, I think he'll be confirmed now. Automatically, the Democrats go against whoever it is. They know he's a good judge. They know he's a very excellent student of the law and a really terrific legal mind. But for some reason, they think they've got to take on every Republican nominee. And this is one they really should have said, look, he's good, let's let him go through.
Yeah, but the signs early from the Democratic side are it's going to be pretty severe. Let me get that in a moment. Have you spoken with Senators Murkowski or Collins? Would they approve Kavanaugh or not?
I think they will. They're very fair. They're tremendous women. I mean, they're tremendous women senators. I have a lot of regard for each one of them, and I suspect that they'll be glad to help on this.
Have you specifically talked to them about this?
Not yet, but I will.
Okay.
I certainly will.
There's a political action committee, Democracy for America, talked about the Kavanaugh choice will, quote, directly lead to the deaths of countless women. Went on to say it's a death sentence for thousands of women in the United States. Another group put out a statement that they oppose the nomination of XX to the Supreme Court, where the name was not filled in. Certainly that was rather embarrassing. Here is Chuck Schumer on CBS this morning on how he evaluates this choice.
When you say you'll follow binding precedent, that's been a trick. Look what happened last week. Justice Roberts, Justice Gorsuch, they promised they would follow binding precedent, and they undid 40 years of precedent on labor law in the Janus case. It is not good enough for them to hide behind this shibboleth that will follow existing law, because when they get on the bench, they change.
The Janus case dealt with unions about 10 days ago.
Right.
It is my feeling, sir, that with the midterm election 4.5 months from now, if Democrats can stop Kavanaugh, they've got a good chance of gaining some control in the Congress again. If they lose, they might lose the midterm as well. How do you see it?
Well, I think they're going to lose because I think the American people are much more fair than that. And the Democrats, if they can beat him on arguments and on the law and on the history and all that, that's one thing. But I don't think they can. Kavanaugh's a very good choice. He's a very smart guy. He's liked by everybody who knows him, including Democrats. And frankly, I wish for once they'd say, look, he's a good choice and we're going to support him.
Well, that hasn't happened yet.
Not yet.
Listen, you've been involved in some of these bruisers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Robert Bork and Clarence Thomas. This really divided a country, and we all watched it together from the outside looking in. But Bork really seemed to be the tipping point in 1987. Is this a case that gets as divided and as tense and emotional as the two I just mentioned?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, Robert Bork, they knew he was one of the greatest legal scholars who ever lived. And they didn't want him on the court because they knew that he would be so persuasive that it could change laws in this country towards, in my opinion, the better for decades to come. So they threw everything they possibly could at Bork, some of which was scandalous and just terrible. I lived through that and I thought it was just awful. So I hope they'll think twice about that in this particular case, because this man's a good man, he's a good family man, he's a brilliant lawyer, a brilliant judge. He's done a very good job for 12 years on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. He's proven himself. They ought to wake up and say, oh, well, okay, we wouldn't have chosen him ourselves had we won the presidency, but he is good and we're going to let him go through. But they just can't seem to do that.
Why do you think that level of resistance is so high? Answer the question on that.
Well, number one, they hate Trump. They just can't stand Donald Trump. And you know, he beat him. They were so sure that Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president and the first woman president. And when he beat Hillary, and of course now has the opportunity of making these appointments, it's just difficult for them to accept. But you know, there comes a time when, as adults, you have to wake up and say, okay, we lost. He has much good about him. There's much we can say that we can agree with, and maybe we ought to give his nominees a better chance and give them a more fair trial.
Senator, thank you for your time. I imagine hearings are set for September, perhaps. Yeah. Fair guess on the schedule?
I think so, and I think
Okay.
there'll be interesting hearings, because I think you'll hear a lot
No
about
doubt.
the law and about constitutional law.
Well,
at that.
we'll be watching and listening closely. Thank you, Senator Orrin Hatch, for your time today from the Hill.
You bet.
Thanks.